realism? What are the points that we discussed?
Sir, about realism as in whole or about the last class
What
where we
was the
studied
last? What did we do in
Howells?
the last class? Yeah.
We studied about Howells. So,
Okay.
am I audible clearly?
Yeah. 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 You are.
Okay. So we started with William Dean Howells, who was a major American novelist and critic of his age, and he was also a journalist, and he was an editor in Harper's Monthly, Atlantic Monthly, and all such works. Now he was a critic of American capitalism and imperialism, and he occupied a central position in the American literature. His important work, named Criticism and Fiction, is a manifesto of realism, and here his emphasis is more on political aspect, and he attacks academical or sentimental seekings.
Right.
And to him, truth is very important. Truth, beauty, and that comes out in poetry. That what is true is always beautiful and good, and nothing else is so. It goes along the lines of Keats, who
Right.
says beauty is truth and truth beauty. And I found this very interesting that Howells emphasizes on this thing that each new author, each new artist, we don't have to compare him to other artists, other previous artists, but in his relation to the human nature. So
Right.
he emphasizes on the individuality and authenticity of an artist's perception. And we had this very good example of grasshopper that you had explained us,
Yeah.
that when an artist is said to describe a grasshopper, then he should describe an actual grasshopper and not the ideal grasshopper or the heroic grasshopper that has been described by the artists before him.
Hmm.
So, and also that we saw the reason why realism is a partial rejection of romanticism,
Right.
because there were some aspects of romanticism that were continued in the realism,
Hmm.
such as the democratic notion was taken further,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
like leveling every barrier against aesthetic freedom and the escape from the paralysis of tradition.
Right.
Romanticism got exhausted because of seeking freedom from tradition,
Hmm.
and Howells connects both of these movements.
Hmm. Right.
He, yeah, he also rejects this hierarchy in the material, that like nothing is above or below, and no living man is a type but a character.
Right.
And
And what
then
do you mean by material over here?
so material
Hierarchy in the sense of what?
in the sense of materialistic world.
Hierarchy, no. Hierarchy of what? Anyone? Hierarchy in what you represent, right? It
Hmm.
shouldn't be that some material like something nobility or something is beautiful is considered superior to something which is ordinary or poor, right? So that is what he means by rejection of uh, hierarchy. That's what he is talking about, right? Okay. And when he talks about Keats, beauty is truth and truth beauty, he is actually changing the meaning of beauty as well as truth, very much on the lines of George Eliot. Right? Beauty is not just what you find in beautiful people or beautiful natural objects or sunset or whatever. Beauty is also old women who are working very hard with wrinkled faces and cold, dried hands peeling potatoes. Right? Even that is, according to George Eliot, beautiful. So this what should I say? This reconfiguration of the meaning of what is beautiful is core idea of realism. Means you don't consider beauty as only in a conventional sense of beauty, right? That is important. And truth as well has changed, right? So truth. Wait, what? Then.
That's I'm asking where to pay this bills. They don't know.
Acha, pay this.
Yeah, I mean it's written over there that the fees.
Oh,
Right.
just a moment. Yeah. So the whole reconfiguration of notion of beautiful and truth is very important. But truth in romanticism meant some kind of subjective truth, right? And very often in a symbolic mode, a kind of symbolic truth rather than objective truth. While in the case of realism, beauty includes everything that is not beautiful as well, and truth includes some sort of objective truth, right? Which means a representation which has to have certain fidelity with the phenomenal world. So phenomenal world and artistic representation should have certain kind of fidelity to it. And that is one of the common strains that you find underlying the idea of realism. So Howells is closer to George Eliot in many ways. Okay, right. What else about Howells?
So there was one aspect that I did not understand. If you could please explain that later on.
Yeah.
When you said that Howells said that literary criticism lacks scientific aspect, criticism is secondary to literature.
Right.
And as you said, Howells recognizes that truthful simplicity is very difficult and nothing is so hard as to be honest. So,
Right.
truth for Howells is honesty to experience.
Right.
And he also adds a certain ethical function to it where he reconnects with romanticism when he says fiction is harmful if it tells ideal lies about nature and the social fabric.
Right.
And
Right.
he's also promoting American identity through realism, like Emerson.
Right.
Although he is reluctant to directly, consciously say it American, uh, in
But
the
it
end,
is implied, right? When you say you
yes,
write only in your own dialect or language, it doesn't mean you write in a British English. You write in American English or a dialect of American English. That's what he is insisting indirectly.
yes.
Right?
And then in the end, he attacks classics or British or European canon by saying that at least three-fifths of the literature called classic is not alive. It
Yeah.
is as dead as the people who wrote it and read it.
Right. So even that, if you see, is some continuation from Romanticism, right? Attack on the classics. So you can see the continuities with Romanticism in terms of its politics very often. But in terms of poetics, it seems to differ, right? It has reconfigured the ideas of beauty and truth to mean something else altogether, right? So that is very significant. And that is being done in the broader context of search for distinctive or invention of distinctive American tradition, intellectual and artistic tradition, in as a part of that larger nationalist project, You can see that, right? So realism would be American realism. And when you say not grasshoppers that you find in novels and poems and paintings, but the grasshopper that you see in front of you, it will be an American species of grasshopper, right? That is implied. So like romanticism, realism also works under the larger American intellectual project that was stated by Emerson in terms of self-reliance, in terms of larger humanistic ideals, in terms of not relying solely on bookish learning, but keeping your eyes open, writing books for your own age rather than trying to imitate books of earlier period. That is mostly would be British and European, right? So you write for your own audience, for your own times. You have to rewrite those books. That's what Emerson says in American Scholar. And emphasis on action is as important as scholarship. So he creates an alternative or a different version of American scholar who would not be same as the European scholar or the British scholar. So the idea is to invent an American, distinctive American intellectual, philosophical, and literary tradition, right? Cultural tradition, artistic tradition. So it's part of the same larger project that even Howells is working. And the next important thinker that we are going to discuss today.
So you forgot my doubt.
Yeah, please. So it was regarding criticism, right?
Yes, the literary aspect lacks criticism.
Right. So on page 483, last paragraph, he says that criticism should not be effective or impressionistic kind of thing. It must reconceive its office because the poetics have changed. Right now, the poetics are no longer poetics of romanticism, but realism. Right. Then criticism also needs to reconfigure its function. And what is the function of literary criticism is a kind of debate that is ongoing in the West, right? And for Howells, criticism should be dispassionate scientific study of current literature. And critic must have humility that he can learn from creative authors, right? So these two ideas mean that this whole business of making criticism scientific, right, anticipates the later American trend of new criticism that we will discuss. New criticism is not to be mistaken as latest 2021 ka criticism, but new criticism is a label given to a school of American critics from the period of 1930 to 1950, 60, late 50s, early 60s. So these people dominated American English studies, literary studies, criticism world, and they are called new critics. So I hope I am just reinstating this whole notion of new critics, because I have seen that many students, when they are asked question on new criticism, respond by saying that new criticism is latest criticism. लेटेस्ट नहीं है, वो न्यू उस टाइम था, आज वो पुराना हो गया. इनफैक्ट आज का क्रिटिसिज्म उसके खिलाफ जाता है बहुत बार. It opposes, rejects basic tenets of new criticism. Right? I hope what we mean by new criticism is understood. Right? So it anticipates some of the basic assumptions of new criticism, that criticism should be scientific and dispassionate. And this echoes what we discussed earlier as well. Who does it remind you of? Can anyone tell me? This whole business of making criticism scientific and dispassionate. Does it remind you of any critic we studied?
So was it Zola?
No, so exactly the opposite. Saloni, I think you have not really understood naturalism.
But
Zola is saying critical writing should be,
in naturalism,
creative writing should be scientific. Right? I hope you understand. नॉवेल लिखना साइंटिफिक एटीट्यूड से लिखना है, पोएम नहीं होगा ना, फिक्शन लिखना साइंटिफिक एटीट्यूड से लिखना है। ये क्रिटिसिज्म को साइंटिफिक बनाने की बात है। आई होप यू गेट द डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन naturalism and idea by Howells. Yeah. Is that distinction clear, or somebody has doubts with this distinction?
Yes, sir.
What Howells is saying, he is not saying novel लिखनी है तो scientific technique से लिखो. He is saying criticism should be scientific and dispassionate. Right? Criticism and creative writing are two different activities and practices, right? Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you will see how later on people question this binary between creative writing and critical writing. We'll discuss that. Right? Coleridge, okay. But somebody more clearly, earlier than Coleridge, उससे पहले. Anyone? Who does it remind you of? To make study of literature scientific. Actually, it goes back to Kant, right? When Kant is insisting that the statement, this is beautiful, has to be, yes, dispassionate, yes, Digvijay, but scientific, because of rationality is what Kant is trying to define. That how is scientific rationality possible? What are the conditions of scientific rationality? क्या चीजें होनी चाहिए scientific rationality के लिए? And there he says that in order to make statements like this painting is beautiful, you should fulfill 4 important conditions. Only then such statement will have scientific validity. First is that it should be disinterested, right? That means it should look at art as purposiveness without purpose. Second is that it should be based on common sensory sensibility, right? If you remember that. Does anyone remember good old Kant?
Yes, sir. We have to, because we have an exam today.
Yeah, you can't afford to not to. Yeah. And yes, hope as well. But that is an enlightenment idea as well. Yeah, Mansi, go ahead.
Sir, it is I who have 2 questions.
Okay. I thought Mansi says yes, sir. You have good question. Yeah, Digvijay.
Yes. Yes, sir. Howells talks about this idea of, that literature should, along with its scientific spirit, it should comprehend the simple, the natural and honest. And then later on, he also talks about, that aesthetic judgment should be based on our power to, I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about, comprehending the simple, the natural and honest. He again uses these 3 terms. Like if you can check out that page 483, the first paragraph. He's talking about no, not the grasshopper, but he's he appropriates from Simon's a new criteria for art. Can you see that line?
That is not on 483.
Like the PDF I have shows 483. Okay.
Are you using, by the way, Habib's History of Literary Criticism or Introduction to Literary Criticism? These are 2 separate books. Habib's Introduction to Literary Criticism is a shorter book, quite useful.
No. Yes.
Because pagination would be different, right?
We are using this.
Simon's ka kahan pe?
Sir, what he's saying is very much on page number 483, the grasshopper paragraph.
Yeah, got that.
Okay.
A new criterion for art, it must be judged not by conformity with so-called classics, right? or with the authority of tradition, but the standards of art which we all have in our power, the simple, natural, and the honest. Yeah.
So
So,
yes.
what is the question?
So, sir, what is he talking about? Because, this also relates to his democratizing impulse when he says that, all people have the capacity for aesthetic judgment. And
Right.
then his notion of, emphasizing the particularity when he talks about literature
And
should
not
comprehend the sense.
relying upon
Tradition,
canons of judgment
canon.
or
Yeah.
criteria of judgment that has come down from tradition.
Yes.
Right. So, in some sense, he's continuing the romantic rebellion against classicism,
Yes.
neoclassicism.
Yes. Yes. That has been talked about when he talked about the exhaustion of romanticism.
Right. So, what is
So,
your question?
So my question was like I was confirming if his this idea of simple and natural relates to his emphasis on particularity.
And democratic, it is aesthetic ability to have aesthetic response is not what should I say, a property only of the elites or aristocrats, but everyone, right? Middle class, lower classes as well. So
Yes.
democratic. So he's democratizing the notion that aesthetic response is. It's not just that जो लोग येल में पढ़े हुए हैं उनको ही आर्ट अप्रिशिएट करना आता है और रास्ते पे जो गरीब चल रहा है उसको नहीं आता, राइट? That kind of elitism in art is what he is attacking.
Yes.
Right? So he is making a case for more democratic and inclusive notion of aesthetic response.
Yes. So
which is
what?
Again a romantic kind of post-French Revolution development.
Yes. So
Yeah.
like
So it's not
what?
about particular so much as anybody can respond to work of art. That's what he's saying. It only has to be natural, simple, and honest. Very Wordsworthian, right? So simple, honest, natural person कौन है तो जो ज़्यादा पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है. So it's not just the pastime of the elites.
Okay. Yes. So so honesty is in that sense, relating to the rustic and
non-elite. That's
non-elite.
the more democratic, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
remember, democracy becomes one of the key ideas of American project of forging their own cultural and artistic tradition. It has to be democratic because democracy is political, but it's also cultural. Political in the sense of electoral, but also cultural as well, in field of arts as well.
Yes.
Right.
And the second question is about that literary criticism and creative writing, the distinction. And he
That's
talks of
something that Saloni has asked.
yes. So he is talking about, like Habib points it out as that he is doing something novel by pointing out that criticism is secondary compared to literature, and that it's always in a relation of dependency. So it is in a position of observing, recording, and analyzing, as he points out. And he says that Howell is somewhat novel in pointing this out. But isn't this always the case that criticism is in this position of dependency? So like, is this being formulated for the first time? And when you say that it is something that it anticipates new criticism, like it is recent for us if we look at 50-60 years of development, but hasn't criticism always been in this position of dependency and formulated by
one
earlier
name
critics?
that you have asked. तूने चैट में एक नाम पूछा है जिसका नाम पोप है. याद आ रहा है क्या कर रहा है? Both from heavens derive their light, those born to judge as well as those who write. Right? Both are drawing upon same natural gift of God. Right? Yes. So Pope is questioning this whole dichotomy of criticism being subsidiary to art. Right? Yes. And then, so there is a kind of tension between creative writing and critical writing. And by the time we reach Oscar Wilde, and he subverts it, saying almost criticism is more important than art. ऐसा कुछ भी कहने शुरू होता है, right? Because Oscar Wilde's basic tendency seemed to be subvert anything that is commonsensical.
Yes.
You remember importance of being earnest, right?
Yes. Yes.
His basic humor came from that. But here, it seems that Howells seems to be first to explicitly say that it should learn from creative writing. And its office and function is separate of business of observing, recording, and comparing to analyzing material before it, and then synthesizing impressions, page 484. Even then, it is not too much to say that literature as an art could get along perfectly well without it. Criticism ना हो तो art तो चालू ही रहेगा. That's a radical thing to say, right? So this is a very deeply entrenched notion today, that criticism is not only secondary to art, but also dispensable.
Okay.
Right?
But that relation of dependency is common throughout all the critics we have discussed, right? That critic is responding to something, that is creative writing.
But if you look at Plato's kind of aggressive dismissal of art, then it's as if criticism is overriding creativity.
Oh, yes.
Right? In Plato, you find that impulse to dismiss, not dismiss, attack.
Yes.
Right?
So Plato as a critic here.
That is a critical position, that our art is harmful and full of lies. And that's why it should not be allowed to be part of the Republic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
So there has always been a tension between criticism and literature, and that's why you find a lot of defense of poetry coming. If you revisit, it's a very interesting question, Digvijay. If you go back to Sir Philip Sidney's defense of poetry, right, Apology for Poetry, then Stephen Gosson's Puritan attack is what he is responding to. Remember?
Yes.
Criticism tries to get better of creative writing, and then artists write this in defense of poetry, apology for poetry, and even Shelley would write something like that, defense of poetry.
Yes.
So it's an ongoing kind of tension in the West between creative writing and the critical writing. Their functions, their place in society. For Howells, it's dispensable. ना हो तो भी चलता है, कोई जरूरत नहीं.
Yes.
अगर हो तो वो scientific हो.
So we are relegating.
Yeah, lot of later ideas. Yeah.
Yes. Like I was saying, are we relegating this to the domain of Western intellectual tradition? This tension between creative writing and criticism, is it not like in our tradition?
What do you think?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
That's a research question.
Okay. All right.
Because you know what, in India, art traditions had a great kind of religious sanctity, spiritual sanctity, and art was given extreme kind of metaphysical place. When you say that the joy, the pleasure that you get from art is comparable to the joy of spiritual realization that Atma and Brahma is one. So the rasa was seen as Ananda of Satchitananda, because that is the nature of Brahman, Sat, Chit and Anand. And that's why art is also called Brahmananda Sahodara. Yani Brahmanand और आर्ट में मिलने वाला आनंद दोनों एक ही वूम्ब में से पैदा हुए हैं, एक ही माँ के बच्चे, सहोदर, भाई भाई है. So criticism did not exist the way we are discussing here, Western. it was a kind of manual Shastra model of criticism that exists. So you have Natya Shastra. So Shastra is a different kind of knowledge paradigm, which is kind of prescriptive, explanatory, and injunctional very often. So Kavya Shastra and Alankar Shastra are the two important critical paradigms or critical paradigm in India. So Shastra would be explaining what is dharma of art. And it would give all metaphysical theories and then also talk about Kavya Dosh, what are the flaws and what is the function of art in society, Kavya Prayojan, then Alankar, Ras Dhwani, all those notions, Vakrokti. So these Shastra tradition is a different kind of intellectual tradition.
Okay.
So it would in some way resemble Horace Ars Poetica. But Horace is more of an artist giving, senior artist giving tips and pointers to other artists. While Shastra is something like Dharma Shastra, it becomes a very important dominant knowledge paradigm, and that was largely in the domain of Sanskrit. Sanskrit had this whole tradition of Kavya Shastra or Alankar Shastra or Sahitya Vidya. So it was a kind of elite, upper caste, largely cultural domain. So you can see that's the limitation of it as well. While the criticism as we are discussing here belongs to the public sphere of modernity in the West, right? It's in the public domain, in the print domain. In India, printing did not exist, right? So in print domain, as a part of civil society, which is different from political society, there are debates about art and literature that are happening. Because then the patronage is very different. Patronage is mostly the market of middle class, bourgeoisie, Western bourgeoisie. That's the market of arts. While in the case of Sanskrit poetry, it was largely the king who patronized it, right? Yes. So the question of judging also or criticism was not a public activity. So it belongs to a different social cultural space and a very different intellectual tradition in Sanskrit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. So Natya Shastra is the oldest Shastra of theatre, almost as old as or even older than Aristotle, right? Attributed to Bharata Muni. And then by the time you come to 4th, 5th century, you have people like Bhamaha and Dandi, who wrote Alankar Shastra and Kavya Shastra. And then there were many manuals and textbooks. And these very often textbooks had a kind of synthetic attitude rather than the critical attitude that we find here. So somebody like Anandavardhan from Kashmir in 8th century would talk about Dhwani as one of the key aspects of literature, which results in, and Dhwani is similar to the notion of sphota that you find in spiritual traditions and linguistic traditions. So later on, his student or follower Abhinav Gupta would bring together the ideas of Ras, Dhwani, Alankar, everything, and create a kind of synthetic model of Shastra, Kavya Shastra. And by the time you come to 11th, 12th century, it is the king himself who is creating this Shastra in the form of Rajshekhar and Bhoj, Raja Bhoj. And then it could even continue in Mughal courts, right? So the idea that Sanskrit literature or theory was destroyed by Islamic invasion is one of the most untrue lie that you know. because one of the last greatest critics in Sanskrit tradition was Pandit Raj Jagannath and in Mughal court, right? And he wrote poems. He was also a poet addressing a Muslim girl he loved, Yavani. And you can see that it's not, it's a wrong narrative that has been created that Islam has damaged our society and culture. Because Sanskrit tradition flourished in Sanskrit court as well.
Yes.
So that's a kind of 2000-year history in a nutshell. But as we started out in the beginning of our 5th semester, I told you that we are going to take comparative perspective here, right?
Yes.
To make this whole question of modernity and literature and criticism relevant to us as students of criticism and literature. So your question fits into that comparative paradigm. So what do you have to say about what I said? Not just Digvijay, anyone. The conversation that I had just now, what are your responses to this? Last question that Digvijay asked. Does anyone have to say something?
So when you were saying about the synthetic rather than the critical approach and providing a comparative basis, what were you trying to point out when you say synthetic?
Yeah,
You
good question. By
talked about
synthetic,
Anandvarma.
you mean, yeah. By synthetic, you mean you build upon earlier traditions rather than rejecting them outright,
Oh yes.
right? So you take them together and create a larger system. And
Yes.
it's not very Indian as well. Means even if you look at what Plotinus was doing, was taking Plato, but putting a different kind of spiritual turn on it, right?
Yes.
And later on, if you see how people used Aristotle, right, drew upon how Coleridge is taking ideas from Kant and Hegel and Schelling and giving it a kind of his own metaphysical, spiritual, religious theory out of it. So that
Yes.
is a kind of inclusion from the other traditions, other ways of thinking. And there were dismissals and rejections, and there were fights over what is the meaning of word language and self, and hence literature, especially with the Buddhist thinkers who rejected the very fundamental ideas of Vedic tradition, that is belief in Brahma and Atma, right?
Yes.
And Ved. These are the 3 important cornerstones of Vedic Brahmanism, if that's the word that we can use, right? Vedic scriptures, Brahma, and that is the ultimate reality from which everything comes and everything goes. And finally, Atman, or the self. These 3 key ideas were rejected, as were the ideas of Chaturvarna, or 4 castes, animal sacrifice. All those were attacked severely by Buddhists. So Buddhist and Brahmin war lasted for almost, what should I say, 1000 years in India. And Jainas would again intervene and come up with their own theories. They were also anti-Vedic. So if you look at intellectual and spiritual traditions in India, then Buddhists, Jains and Charvakins are heterodox or Nastic parampara, as against other schools of thought like Vedanta and all kinds of Vedanta, Dvaitavadi, Advaitavadi, Vishishtadvait and whatnot. But they all believed in Vedic word, Shabda, as their key idea. And Buddhist theories of art would be extremely hostile, and language to Brahmins, and Brahmins would be equally hostile. So there were critical traditions as well, which came from different sampradaya and panth.
Okay. So these categories of synthetic and critical, and assigning them to, let's say, as you just pointed out, synthetic to the traditions, which, like, I don't want to use the word Indian traditions, but I don't have a better
I
word.
prefer using word Indic to
Indic.
indicate
Okay.
not India as a nation state, but
Mhm.
Indic as Indian civilization, which
Yes.
spread from Afghanistan to Burma and Sri Lanka,
Yes.
where Sanskrit was a major language. Even Java and Singapore,
Okay.
Indonesia, all these have powerful traditions of Sanskrit. And you have traditions of Ramayana and Mahabharata in Indonesia as well.
Yes. So my question was these categories of synthetic and critical as in, which is more, the affinity is closer to the Hegelian notion of, negation and then building upon, like that is not,
No,
uh,
no, no. Good that you asked. It was rejection, negation, not to
yes.
synthesize but dismiss and reject.
Mhm.
खंडन करना. यानी
Yes.
बौद्ध मत would do खंडन of Vedic mat, right? And Jaina mat would do खंडन of both Bauddha mat and Vedic mat. Khandan is not negation in sense of Hegelian idea here. They don't want to synthesize. वो
Okay.
कैसे गलत है वो दिखाना है, राइट?
Mhm.
और वो
So,
कैसे गलत है और हम कैसे सही है.
okay. So
हेगल में क्या होता है?
that.
You critique, say for
Mhm.
example, empiricism is a critique of rationalism, and then he sees that Kant is synthesizing both, right, and
Mhm.
transcending both. That is what
Yes.
Hegel is saying. But there is no synthesis of both and Brahmin because they are fundamentally different.
Okay. All right.
Jains would also be fundamentally different from uh, Vedic traditions, and they would even have their own Ramayana and Mahabharata traditions where Ram is shown as going to hell, and
Mhm.
Avir or somebody, Parshvanath, pulls him out. And Mahabharata and Ramayana, Krishna would be one of the important figures, divine figures, but not God, right? And
Yes.
they would say that because Pandav and Kaurav and Ram, all of them have done violence, right? They have committed
Mhm.
sin. Because in Jainism, violence is to be condemned, every kind of violence. Ahimsa is their core idea. So Krishna would say hinsa kar sakte hain. Though the term ahimsa paramo dharma is used in Vedic tradition as well,
Yes.
Krishna would say that hinsa, as part of your swadharma as Kshatriya, your job is to kill your great grandfather because he's on the side of adharma, right? So he
Mhm.
scolds Arjun when he drops his bow and arrow. While Jain would say that that is the great thing he was doing, and Krishna was trying to dissuade him from his own true path.
Mhm.
So you will have
Yes.
various versions of Ramayana and Mahabharata among Jainas in their Apabhansha traditions, not Sanskrit
Mhm.
tradition. So Bauddha would also first reject Sanskrit and then adopt Sanskrit. But this is just an overview of comparative knowledge traditions, and it is in this wider knowledge traditions that we have to understand literary criticism after all.
Yeah.
Plato and his ideas on criticism are inseparable from his ideas of metaphysics and ethics and
Mhm.
political science, right? So all these things imply a kind of knowledge tradition. So Indian knowledge traditions are very different from the Western ones. So
Mhm.
Jaina Khandan of Bauddha, right, would not imply any synthesis with them,
Mhm.
right? So it is critical in that non-Hegelian sense of criticism.
So the closest it
उसे झूठ साबित करना, हाँ.
Yeah, so it comes closer to rejection as you,
Hmm.
that is the word right here.
Right.
Yeah,
Critical
but
rejection, finding faults and dismissing it.
mhm. And that comes from a different way of interpreting the world. The metaphysics is different. That
Very
is what
different.
you're pointing.
Very different. Very different. Both the metaphysics would be very different from Jaina, would be very different from Vedic.
Yes.
Right? Jain metaphysics does not believe, it's not the idea of Brahma, right? They would talk of Jeev and being bound by karma. So you have
Mm,
to undo those karma so that Jeev is freed at the end. Both would
yes.
believe that there is no such thing like Jeev or self. Everything is
Mhm,
impermanent. There is no one like Digvijay or Sachin. ये सब
mhm.
भ्रम है. There is no self.
Okay.
And there is no uh, ultimate reality as a static Brahma. Only ultimate reality is change, perpetual change, transistoriness is the theological tradition of Buddhas.
Mhm,
And they would also be, a, though all the three sampradayas or mat would have a common element of rebirth and
mhm,
escape from the cycles of birth and rebirth. ये तीनों का एजेंडा एट द एंड ऑफ द डे सेम ही लगता है, संसार
mhm.
से मुक्ति हो और मोक्ष या निर्वाण प्राप्त करना, पुनर्जन्म में से छूटना.
So,
यस,
yes.
क्या
So,
गो
so,
हेड
so
गो
the
हेड.
last thing, like, uh,
नो नो गो.
okay. The thing is, like contemporary critics like, Arvind Krishna Mehrotra, I was just listening to him a few days ago, and he pointed out this notion that, literary criticism, like we don't have a very substantial, uh, you know, tradition of literary criticism in India, and the situation is very dire right now as well. So when you say that, literary criticism and the practice, like I'm not talking about creative writing, but the practice of literary criticism, as you say, has not been a public activity you know, in relation to the Western uh, society
In
where you have
comparison,
this
in
in
comparison,
comparison in
much.
comparison so where it is in the public domain. So
Hmm.
when uh, like what is it that you want to say about that, when you don't have people talking about Indic traditions in that sense, and that tradition of critiquing which has been very elitist and upper caste, and now you have new paradigms and uh, like as you have written on Namdev Dhasal, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So new ways of critiquing literature and new ways of uh, like I'm not able to formulate it very well, but yeah, can you talk about literary criticism in India and the situation right now?
Hmm.
Mhm,
So if you again take a comparative perspective, but not look at literary criticism, but what are the conditions and contexts in which literary criticism developed in the West, and
mhm,
conditions and contexts in which literary criticism as a practice developed in India. If you compare, put them together, right, as a comparative approach, then you see that criticism seems to emerge in the West as a public activity right in the Greek domain. वो दो दो 2,500 साल और वहां
mhm,
पे if you look at it, because the games and the plays were public and there were contests, so the judges were invited to judge a play by Aeschylus or by Euripides or Aristophanes and then decide who is the winner or उसको trophy मिलती थी Greek festivals में,
mhm.
Dionysus festival में, whatever. So judging was part, and whole public would gather to watch that play. So something like reality show आजकल होता है ना,
Mhm.
वैसे. So criticism was a public activity then, but
Yes.
not public as we understand it today, because it was a face-to-face community of public where criticism was a practice. The modern criticism in the West emerges in the time of early modernity or Renaissance, where the print sphere and the public sphere emerges, right, as an expression of the new bourgeoisie or new middle class, out of the ruins of feudalism, right? So this new class is the new patron of literature. They bring in new values to write and to criticize the text. So the whole ideas like secularism, scientific spirit, idea of humanism, and later on democracy, all those ideas are ideas of the new capitalist class in the West. This section did not emerge in India.
Okay.
Right? It shows up only after colonialism. So criticism comes into India in modern sense after Western education is implemented in India in early 19th century. So the earliest critics in Gujarati, Marathi, Bangla, Tamil would be people who become critics in 19th century after reading Western theories of criticism. They say, let's have criticism here, and there would be a nationalistic impulse, anti-colonial positions, whole project of imagining nation. So the very different kind of history and politics led to growth of criticism in India. So look at Sir Philip Sidney in 16th century, and this is 19th century, right? 300 साल का एक gap है. So criticism की जो tradition है हमारे यहाँ 200 साल पुरानी है, 1920 और अब. While criticism की tradition West में goes back to at least 15th century, that is makes it 500, 600 years. So there is a whole body of knowledge to fall back on in the West to create new models of criticism. Right, which in India has not emerged. It has largely borrowed from West and borrowed from Sanskrit, and trying to combine करके कुछ नया critical model बनाने का project 19th century onwards India में दिखता है. So if you do comparative study, then कहाँ 16वीं सदी और कहाँ 19वीं सदी, राइट? 300 साल का जो गैप है और वो जो पूरा क्लास है जो क्रिटिसिज्म पैदा करता है, राइट? मार्केट है, क्रिटिसिज्म का भी मार्केट बन जाता है वहां पे, हमारे नहीं बनता. सो दिस डिफरेंस is the reason why our criticism in India as well as modern literature is in perpetual crisis. Should we borrow from the Western paradigms or should we borrow from Sanskritic paradigms? Where should we fall back on? Which knowledge tradition should we fall back on? When William Dean Howells is saying that we must fall back on the Romantic tradition, right? And when Coleridge says we should fall back on German idealism and Neoplatonic Christianity and Neoplatonicism, तो ऐसे कोई भी मॉडल्स हमारे पास रेडीमेड नहीं थे जिनके पर आप फॉल बैक करते हो. जो है वो संस्कृत से आता है या तो वेस्ट से आता है. Right? So you can see there is lack of developed knowledge traditions under which you will function as a critic. So somebody in the West may draw upon whole tradition of psychoanalysis and Marxism and Nietzsche's critique and Schopenhauer and come up with a new model of criticism. Right? There is this bourgeois tradition which is secular, materialist, pragmatic, political in modern sense of the word political, which is missing in India.
Okay.
क्योंकि जो संस्कृत ट्रेडिशन थी वो लार्जली कोर्टली ट्रेडिशन थी.
Yes.
और राजा महाराजा तो रहे नहीं है, तो पैटर्न कौन है? हम और आप है. It becomes a very different problem. So this question that you asked, which Arvind Krishna Mehrotra is asking, saying of sad state of affairs in criticism, comes from this problem. Okay, what is latest in the West, we seem to take that and take something from Sanskrit and practice our criticism. So it
Yes.
always remains a derivative kind of, it becomes a kind of a second-hand understanding of literature in India.
Yes.
You can see that, right? So criticism में stake पूरे class का था. Class in the sense Western bourgeoisie as middle class capitalist. While in India, whole society does not have anything to do with criticism. आज भी.
Yes. And in India,
Academics में आप पढ़ रहे हो इसीलिए आता है, वरना कौन पढ़ेगा ये सब? किसको पढ़िए?
Exactly.
People would read anything that they want. Chetan Bhagat पढ़ो, ये पढ़ो, वो पढ़ो. Why should they read Henry James on novel and realism?
yes.
अगर चेतन भगत पढ़ता तो अच्छी नॉवेल लिखता शायद. हेनरी जेम्स को पढ़ता तो, पर उसके लिए हेनरी जेम्स की एलर्जी है उसको.
Okay. But sir, on a serious note, like this rise, like do we have time or?
Yeah, go
people?
ahead. You have 2-3 minutes. Then go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So this central notion that you pointed out was the middle class, which brings in these new attitudes. And when we come to talk about India, we even with like, do we have that middle class? We don't have that sensibility, and as you pointed out,
आज
we
भी
don't look
शंका है, मुझे तो आज भी शंका है, शायद है, but I am not sure because caste is such a powerful determinant that middle class will be anyway inflected with caste, right? So a Dalit middle class won't be same as Brahmin middle class, won't be same as Kshatriya middle class, right? So caste system has remained constant determinant and become modernized through colonialism. So middle class for India cannot be understood independently of its caste correlate.
Yes.
So I think if we want to have an intellectual discourse, we have to take this determinant on board, caste determinant. बाकी gender discrimination तो वेस्ट में और इंडिया में बहुत ही है आज भी.
Yes.
रेस इंडिया और वेस्ट दोनों में बहुत डीपली उनके दिमाग में घुसा हुआ है, और हमारे भी. We are as racist as the West.
Yes.
Even more maybe, because we don't acknowledge it. When we tease a black person or the person from Northeast as Chinese, we don't even understand that this is racism. Racism ऐसी कोई category है यही पता नहीं. That's why we are more racist than the West. Agree? Disagree?
Yes. Agreed.
So you can see our middle class has a different history and social things compared to the West. And that's why these questions crop up.
Yes. Like I have more questions, but we can continue later. Like, is it okay if I meet you at the department, or are you like?
Yeah, I'm in the department. Only that we have tests at 3, so I have to set your paper in the form.
Yes.
So
No, like.
You can come anytime.
That's the thing. Like, if you are afraid of COVID and all, then I would avoid that.
That's fine because I take precaution. I have masks and sanitizers with me. I will maintain distance.
Okay. All right.
Right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. But you can ask questions if you want. By the way, I'm stopping here for now. But what do others have something to say about what we have been discussing? Did you find the conversation interesting, boring, unnecessary, necessary? I'm asking others. And you have to say it honestly. अगर आपको लगा कि ये क्या चल रहा है, तो ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो, कह सकते हो. You are free to say that. Okay. Okay. So Mansi, what is it that you found interesting? And Amira, what information did you find new information?
The fact that we took into account, I think, the whole Indian history and criticism is what I found very interesting, because it's somehow very easy to connect with that, because we
And
are talking
this approach which we did just now is called comparative,
right. Yes.
which has become a discipline in its own right. That makes it more relevant, right? Yeah. And what new information did you find, Amira?
Well, so the whole take on the Indian notion, I had never dealt with it or even read about it so much as Digvijay or about it. So it was really interesting to know all of it.
Yeah. So we do
Even
that at
with
MA locally.
historical past.
हाँ,
Yeah.
MS में हम करते हैं. हमारे एक यूनिट होगा क्रिटिसिज्म के पेपर में, इंडियन एस्थेटिक्स में, और कंपैरेटिव और ट्रांसलेशन के पूरे कोर कोर्सेस और ऑप्शनल कोर्सेस MA प्रोग्राम में हैं हमारे MSU के.
Okay.
और आपके बाद का जो आने वाला है ना बैच, उनको गुजराती लिटरेचर इन इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन ऐसा पेपर ऑफर करने वाले हैं.
Okay.
English translation, yani Gujarati novel, short stories and poems you will study in English. So even if you don't know Gujarati, you can read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saloni, what did you find new?
Sir, I don't know much about all this, the Indian notion of it. Digvijay reads a lot about it, and it's always useful to know about things, mainly these Indian aspects.
Yeah. So that is the comparative angle. And I have been researching comparative literature from past 25 years or so. My own doctoral research is based on translation of a Gujarati Bhakti poet named Narsi Mehta into English. And I translated it and discussed what are the problems of translation involved in that. So that I did that in 2002, 2002, almost 20 years ago. So I have been constantly working from past 25 years on comparative Indian literature. And we offer that as an optional course in MA now, MA Part 2 में. Yes, Amira says there is a holiday today and tomorrow. Yes, but would you be interested in having classes so that we finish it soon? Anyway, nobody has to come physically. Extra lecture लेना है 11:30 से 12:30. I would be.
Yes, that would be fine.
Because जितना हम कंप्लीट करेंगे उतना आपको एग्जाम में स्टडी करने के लिए हेल्प रहेगा ना. एंड क्लासरूम डिस्कशन विल हेल्प यू ऑफ कोर्स in your exams, right? And you will get more time to study when exam is declared, because you would have covered most of it. So that's the idea behind having extra class. So what is your opinion, all of
Sir,
you?
is it true that for third year students, professors have to complete the syllabus until 22nd April? Like,
I
heavy people
don't know.
concentrate.
I haven't known that, but I will try to finish it as much and as quickly as possible so that you get more time for study. And without
Yes,
discussion, it becomes very difficult. So these are the things that I have in mind, but I am not sure about 22nd. Pata nahi.
Deepta ma'am was telling us so. She wasn't sure either.
But I don't know. I have not heard of it. ऐसा कुछ होगा तो देखते हैं. So that is all left, I think, to us to decide at the end of it. Because it all depends on the exam dates that are going to be declared, and they haven't been
Yes.
declared. So once they are declared, we will have a better idea of when to stop, so that you have a buffer to study, right? But they haven't been declared yet, so
So then we'll have one lecture tomorrow, right? And not two.
yeah, we have it. Yes,
Okay,
at
sir.
11:30.
All right, sir. No problem.
Okay. Just
Sir?
inform us and we meet at 3 for the.
Sir, can we not have the lecture a little early in the day, like 10 o'clock or something?
Yeah, why not? That's great. Yes, yeah.
Ah, okay.
That works. What do you say? Just put it in the group. Give me time. 11:30 wala या 10 wala. Just tell me. I am okay with both. Yeah, just inform me. In the group also you can inform. 10 is fine too. So let's meet at 10 tomorrow. Right? So we meet today for no, we don't have a class because we have exams 3 to 4. ID कितने बजे हैं Smith?
But Smith, it's a holiday tomorrow. You wouldn't have ID lectures.
हॉलीडे है इसलिए. आईडी नहीं होगा शायद, होगा तो बताना.
I don't think ID needs extra lectures.